This is the Score to Follow podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Score to Follow podcast with me, Mark Annals, and to my left is Neil Monday.
Hello.
And right in front of me is Dan Laundy.
Good evening.
Today we're going to be talking about the England Women's Euro 2017 campaign. They're currently playing at the moment against the Netherlands. Not doing too well. 1-0 down at half time, but hopefully they can get it back. But I think we're just going to talk about what a successful campaign it's been so far for them. They've got quite an experienced squad. Have been together a long time, they have put some good results together so far in this campaign. Beating Scotland 6-0 in the group stage.
Hooray!
You like that one? Beating Spain 2-0.
Not so fussed about that.
And beating Portugal 2-1, and then the quarterfinal beating France, and just completely showing up the men's teams. To be honest,
that hasn't taken a lot, has it?
No.
Disrespect to the men's team, but
true. So, what are your thoughts on their campaign so far, Dan?
I didn't watch the England-Scotland game for a start. So I don't have a lot to add there, other than obviously it's always nice to beat the old enemy.
I saw about they've actually just gone 2-0 down as we've obviously had bad luck omen on them.
Van de Donk.
Yeah, just after the hour.
Could be a long way back now.
Yeah, hopefully they can pull it back, but yeah, it's not looking good with 28 minutes to go. I saw the last half hour of the England-Scotland game. I mean, I think England and Scotland in this particular discipline are on pretty much a different stratosphere, and I know people have say it about Scotland before, but I think they were just happy to sort of make up the numbers. That said, England very impressive in everything they did in terms of just absolutely just having that killer instinct and dispatching the opposition, and you see teams sometimes lift the foot off the gas when they go 3-4-0 up. England didn't do that, they carried on. Got the 6, were very impressive. Tony Duggan, who's at Barcelona, she's doing all sorts of she's a really tricky sort of winger, lots of tricks. That was good. I haven't seen much of the other performances, I have to admit, either, but from what I hear, the Spain game was very rope-a-dope in that the Spanish had a lot of possession and England just hit them on the break really well.
Yeah, Spain were the better side. I think they had something like 70% possession on the night. And they just couldn't find a way to break England down, and England tucked away their chances, which is clinical, isn't it?
Exactly the word I was going to use, clinical.
Yeah, and the France one was quite a big thing as well, wasn't it? Because I think I've lost the stat now, but it was something like they hadn't beaten France in 30 years or something in a competitive match. So. Yeah. So to do that, I mean, it's not looking, as we said, unfortunately, Netherlands have just scored another goal, so it's not looking so great for them this stage, and unfortunately they may be going out of the semi-finals again like they did in the World Cup 2 years ago.
The BBC's commentary, by the way, just on the text alerts, simply said, "Oh dear."
Right.
Was it by that? Was it a particularly bad goal to give away? Well, I'm sure we will find out in time.
Farrell Williams, who I think is one of England's better players, appears to have made a mistake.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I mean, the best players make mistakes. Got nothing against over that. But,
well, I mean, you made the point beforehand, didn't you, that the Netherlands are at home, so it's always going to be a tall order playing against a home crowd. It is a shame if it does look like an exit now, because I felt like this team was really sort of gaining a bit of momentum. I thought I'd seen them in a couple of the World Cup matches last time out, and they're very well organised, and they're fit, they're strong. A lot of attacking through the fullbacks, I think, which is obviously quite a modern thing anyway in the modern game. I think Lucy Bronze is getting involved in a lot of the game. I think she's a right back, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, Manchester City player, isn't she?
Yeah. So I think it does look like it's probably going to be a fall at the semi-final hurdle again, which is a shame. But I think they can certainly take heart from what's been a really strong couple of weeks.
Well, with this tournament, it's a bit like when I find myself getting drawn into other events that perhaps I wouldn't normally watch. And I sat and watched the game against the French. And you guys know I've always been a little bit sort of dubious about doing a direct comparison between the men's and the women's game, so obviously they are still worlds apart at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was genuinely surprised actually at a lot of the quality that some of the players had. There was her name escaped me, but there was a French lady in particular who picked the ball up just outside her own box, and she just went on one of those driving runs through the heart of midfield, the sort of thing you might have seen Patrick Vieira do sort of 10 years ago. It was really a strange thing to see. I know that sounds a bit odd for me to say, but because I didn't realise the women's game perhaps had developed to the stage that it has. I mean, it's been a few years since I last watched women's football, really. Probably a cup final maybe 5-6 years ago, and I feel like it's even gone on since then.
Yeah, it's definitely come on in the last 10 years, or especially probably in the last 5 years, really come on. Like Neil's already mentioned, you've got English players like Tony Duggan, who's obviously just gone and signed for Barcelona. But really, you're only associating sort of women's football to sort of high quality women's football to America, because it's professional over there, isn't it?
Like Mia Hamm of the players.
Yeah, they've got a lot of big players, and then you started seeing a few English players going over there. But yeah, I'd say you've got people going to Barcelona now, and that just proves how far the women's game's come on.
I did see on Channel 4, I forget the newsreader's name, but she was on Twitter this week arguing a case about maybe some equality between the English men's game and the women's game, and whether or not the women should get better bonuses, better pay, perhaps more in line with the lower level men's game. Is that a reasonable request at this stage, or is it a bit too early still to be? Because I think you mentioned before that women's football was only sort of even founded in the 70s.
Yeah, that's right. 71 is when they went pro.
So, bearing in mind the sponsorship and the national interests and such, would it be right? I don't want to upset anybody, but whereas I can understand pay being equal in, say, like the tennis, bearing in mind the level that women's football in England is still at in terms of the coverage it gets and the interest it generates, would it be right for the pay to rise that substantially?
It's difficult, really, isn't it? Because it's like I say, the women's game hasn't been going as long as the men's game, but it's all about obviously equality thing in there. Why should men be paid in this bracket and the women be paid in this bracket? But like I say, it's just obviously like men's professional football has been around a lot longer.
Yeah, I mean, and the money and the fees are stratospheric, aren't they? I mean,
yeah.
You look at the money that the Premier League alone gets from Sky now. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to equate the Premier League with the Women's Premier League. I'm just sort of saying, because this newsreader mentioned that women weren't getting paid enough in football, was it time to look at that?
Well, I think it's like you say, with men's football, there's obviously TV money, a lot of sponsorship and everything like that. But there's a record attendance at tonight's game.
Well, I just thought it was sort of pressing to mention that, because we're sort of saying about the differences and the big gap there still is, but for a women's game to attract 27,000 spectators, that's really good.
Yeah, that's strong.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I was just saying that there's a lot more money in the men's game, and that's why obviously I think obviously men's football, they're paid more, because like I say, it's just a lot more money where there is to the women's football at this moment in time. I mean, 10-20 years time, women's football might have evolved again and again.
How far it's come. There's no reason why not.
No reason why it can't. And you get you're having, and the big women's football on Sky Sports and all these big sponsorship deals. There's no reason. The way it's going, there's no reason why that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think to a degree, and the disappointing thing about it is, in a way, it's the same with all sports, is that you're probably going to have to pump money into it at some point for the parity of wages to become a reality. I think you're going to have to. At some sort of level, there needs to be perhaps a bit more of investment. There certainly is a growing sort of investment, both in terms of time and money in women's football, in other women's sports as well, of course. I think the cricketers obviously won the World Cup a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that can obviously only be a good thing.
Women's sports certainly on the rise.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this country.
Well, yeah, just all sports, isn't it?
Yeah,
not just football.
Across the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. So I mean, hopefully it will continue to do so. I think it's interesting. I think the England manager is quite an interesting chap. He seems like he sort of he seems like one of these modern day sort of technocrat type managers who he's sort of your Eddie Howe's and your Brendan Rodgers' types.
Mark Sampson, is that
yes, Mark Sampson, that's it. And I think he's done a good job at the helm of the women's football team. So long may it continue. But yeah, I think the pay thing is tricky because of what Mark said about the amount of money. It's indecent now, isn't it, in the men's game? And you almost think, well, you don't want like other disciplines of the sport to become like that because it's too money driven. But then, in the same hand, there definitely needs to be further investment to drive up more numbers. I suppose the other thing is as well, it's actually quite nice. I think I shared an article with you guys a couple of weeks ago, and it was just sort of saying the fan culture was brilliant at the Women's Euros because it's without wanting to sort of generalise that the lads are not there, and I think that's an interesting point. I think for too long it's been sort of...
It's more family friendly, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think for too long that's kind of been a thing about football. Football's done that it's sort of scorned family, and it's kind of gone, like with the Premier League, when the Premier League came in and they went, oh, they've all made it all family friendly, and that was a bad thing, and and it shouldn't be a bad thing. Football is for everyone. I mean, there's certain levels you don't want to be, stopping doing everything, but I think it's nice that people can, certainly from everything I've seen, everyone's enjoyed themselves at this tournament, had a great time. Obviously been no silly stuff going on, but that's just refreshing to see, to be honest, in a world where it's sometimes a bit rare and it is dominated by lad culture. So I think it's quite nice to have something away from that.
I don't claim to know anything really about the women's professional game, but we sort of spoke off air just now, didn't we, about Hope Powell. We should probably sort of quick mention her, because she, I suppose she was there all the way through, or a lot of the grassroots of England at international level, and kind of helped the country earn its stripes at football. Kind of put us up there. She ended up going out on a bit of a damp squib, I think, and certainly this Mark Sampson guy
went to a championship and didn't win a game or something, wasn't it? Or something like that, wasn't it?
I think so. I don't think it ended too well, but I think it should be remembered that she put a lot of years and hard work into trying to raise the profile of football in England for women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, she sort of sounds. You're making her sound. She's been a figure that I've known of for years, not well, but whenever you used to watch the England women's team, she was there. It sounds a bit like a Wenger sort of figure, sort of quietly getting on with it and building things up and doing things the right way.
I think she might be coaching at. She's actually doing some coaching at another, like a men's club, I think, or something.
I know she's done some co-commentating on some of the championships and some of these games.
She's currently the women's first team manager at Brighton Hove Albion.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know where they currently are at, but that's what she's doing now. So I mean, she was in charge of the English national team from 1983 to 1998.
Oh wow, that's funny as well. I thought she was there not longer, but I thought she was there into the 2000s.
Oh, hang on. I may have made an epic error there.
No, that's when
fact
she played.
checking.
She played from 1983 to 98.
I did think that.
But
I was like, I'm sure I've seen her in the last decade.
the point being that she was involved with English football either as a player herself when it didn't get any coverage to being a manager up until just a few years ago. So actually she was involved at some level with the national team from 83 all the way through to 2013.
Yeah.
So I mean that's
30
years of service, and I think that should be remembered.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree completely. I think she's been somebody who's always been in the forefront there. You've always seen her, whether like you say as a player or I remember her much as a manager. And okay, it went, perhaps it went a bit sour at the end, but things tend to if you stick around somewhere long enough, unfortunately, you'll have a bit of a bad run. So yeah, I think she deserves a lot of plaudits for raising the profile of the game to the point of where it is now.
And according to the stats we have immediately available, she won over half of her games as well.
That's never a bad record, to be honest. The likes of I think Sir Alex Ferguson's at about 57%. So
Tim Sherwood would probably smash it out of the park. I don't know.
Well, of course he would, but then he'd break every record, wouldn't he?
And that's just by throwing his gilet. But yeah, I think just forever in the women's game, the English women's game, I think Hope Powell's going to be just a figurehead. Really, isn't she?
It'd be interesting to see if perhaps you always talk of sort of statues for achievement of players and that down the years, and I don't always agree with that. But I wonder whether or not it would be good to have something of that ilk for her. If not a statue, then perhaps certainly a plaque somewhere of.
You could start a campaign, do a government petition, get 1,000 signatures. No, 100,000, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not going to get too heavily involved in this personally.
It just seemed to moot this idea. It seemed
I
very
just think it'd be nice for her to have it, but I'm not going to lead the charge. So if anybody out there agrees, then be my guest.
I think she might. If I'm not going to push in any particular direction. And I personally don't set a lot of store by them, but it wouldn't surprise me to see her get some sort of an honour. Like if she hasn't already got one, possibly in later years it could be a damehood or something like that.
No, she's got a CBE.
Yeah, so she's already on the way, but I imagine
on the BBC rugby train.
I wish I was. It is like a path though, isn't it? Normally you get a CBE unless you do something drastically wrong. You then get an MBE and then it goes from there.
I think it's like they run out of people each year and they think, who can we promote? Jermaine Genius has got an MBE. Okay, let's see if we can give him I don't know if Jermaine Genius has got an MBE.
We might have to look that up now.
Yeah.
Still 2-0 by the way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 77 minutes. So
it's not looking promising. It's
time's running out, unfortunately.
Yeah, about 15 minutes to go in that one, isn't it?
I think we may have put perhaps a bit of a hex on it by.
Yeah, we talked about it and now they've lost. So sorry everyone. We should probably.
But we promise you they have.
Never discuss it again.
Yeah, and I think about the look of it,
yeah.
But yeah, by the look of it, looks like England are getting knocked out by two players that actually play for an English club.
Some things never change.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's
but guess the club.
That's happened before.
Guess the club.
Yeah. Both Arsenal.
Well, Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal are always a bit of a force in the women's game, aren't they?
They were. They've been sort of Manchester City of us all the money they've just got.
Surprising.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, they've sort of taken over. Arsenal are still up there, but I think Chelsea also. But yeah, for years.
Yeah, it was a
Arsenal just clean sweep everything, didn't they, in the women's?
Do you mean up there, but then sort of fall away in March? This probably isn't necessary on this pod.
It's not. I'd also like to mention that Liverpool ladies have won the league title as well, which is something the men's team haven't done for 27 years. So, so that was very welcome.
I'm not sure of the female football record at Spurs, but I don't think it's anywhere up with them guys. So
there you go.
No.
Once again, you're a loser, Dan. Once again.
Put in my place.
Get on that plaque campaign. Go on.
To clear my name, just try and make a difference.
Yeah.
Perhaps I will. I won't.
Right. Shall we move on and talk about transfers? We'll see with the rest of this game. We'll keep everyone up to date with what goes on. If England can can perform a dramatic comeback.
And you'll probably know the result by the time you hear this. Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
this is true. But we'll keep you up to date anyway because we're nice like that.
Mm-hmm. So actually, yeah, on the word of transfers, I think really the only way to start is actually just while we've been on air, it's just been confirmed as Neymar has joined Paris Saint-Germain for £198 million. But smashing the last transfer record by 102 million.
Yeah,
was
it's
it?
Pogba-
Yeah,
Pogba
Pogba's
last
not.
season, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, they've knocked it out really quickly, bearing in mind this afternoon Barcelona, at least the heads of La Liga were refusing the payment from PSG.
I thought that was mad. I was like, how does that happen?
They've
Why not?
obviously realised they've got no legal standing and had to let it go.
If we finally get round to signing Virgil van Dijk, is Richard Scudamore going to throw his hat in the ring? No, lads, sorry, you can't have him. Put him on a boat back to Southampton.
yeah. So yeah, that one's gone through, and I did actually say to you guys on this summer that I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the first 100 million footballer this summer. I didn't expect it to be almost 200 million, but there we go, ridiculous amounts of money.
I suppose the market is driven by, it's a bit like a property market, isn't it? It's how much the buyer is willing to pay. But that does seem astounding.
Yeah, I think inflation has driven this transfer market to absolutely crazy levels now. I'm going to name check Paul Tompkins, who does really good work on inflation and transfer prices. But he's just, he put out an article a couple of weeks ago, and Shevchenko to Chelsea was still the biggest deal in what would now be about 136 million, I think. But Neymar even eclipses that by some 60 million. So, and because obviously that's in a 2017 price, Neymar's deal will be in a 2017 price. So yeah, it's interesting times we live in, but it seems a bit mad. I mean, spending £200 million on football does seem mad.
You kind of think if you put a £200 million release clause on a player, that's probably safe ground.
Yeah.
When you insert that into the contract, you're probably thinking, no one in their right mind is going to pay that. He's here until we're good to shift him on.
But the thing is, I wonder how big people like Messi. I wonder how big his release clause is. I thought
it's 300 odd million, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
I don't know. Aside from PSG and now perhaps Milan, they seem to have bucket loads of money.
Yeah.
But I don't know who could pay that.
Somebody might buy his right leg.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. It's just. I think the thing is with Neymar is he obviously has a lot of potential, but I mean, it's 200 million. I think 200 million would be a lot for Messi.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so Neymar,
at his age or just at any point? Because Messi's 30 now, isn't he?
That's a fair point. I suppose if it was a 19-year-old.
Yeah, no, he's 25 now, isn't he?
Neymar is.
Yeah.
But this is clearly not about resale value. They're not thinking in 5 years' time they're going to flog him on for that. I mean, This is about making a statement. I read something.
They can't even say though, we'll make the money back off this shirt.
No,
because you won't make that money back off the shirt.
It.
No.
Well, I read something today that it's only partly football driven because Qatar as a country is getting a lot of grief from its neighbours, isn't it? And it's getting kind of excluded from a lot of trade deals and whatever else is going on out there. So this is kind of the Qatari people sort of saying, well, we don't need you. We've still got a shed load of cash. Because don't forget, PSG is backed by...
Yes, yeah. It just... Yeah. Bit... Oh, well, yeah, that's obviously a political thing, but yeah, it seems a bit odd to make that statement. You go and buy... I mean, I suppose whatever you do with your money, but go and buy... that's sort of a bit like... your country. Qatari people aren't starving, but say your country is starving, and you just go and buy a massive helicopter. It's a luxury, isn't it?
Kind of a Saddam move.
Yeah, it's not something that.
Who would have thought we'd be name checking Saddam?
We've gone from women's football to Saddam in 10 minutes. Wonderful stuff. I think we can cover out all bases on this podcast.
I mean, do we think it's a given he'll be a success in Paris?
I think he will. I mean, I think the Spanish league is stronger than the French league, so I expect him to score a bucket load of goals. But the big thing I'm thinking about is I mean, it's also a good move for him because obviously the money he's getting, but career-wise, you're at Barcelona, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Why would you leave?
Yeah, historically as well, beautiful city.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, go to Paris, still not bad, but...
Yeah, of course.
I've been to both. I prefer Barcelona.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Paris.
Not been to Paris.
Paris is fine.
Love Barcelona, but I've never been to Paris, so I can't.
I think there are two rival schools of thought on the move. It's either you believe that he and his dad are incredibly greedy and the money on offer was too much turned down. And in fairness, I suppose if any of us were put in that position, difficult to argue on whether or not you would reject it. And the other thing is, there's rumours he wants to step out of Messi's shadow, and he thinks that the only way that he can win the Ballon d'Or is if he's the best player at his club. And so if he's forever playing second fiddle to Messi, he's never likely to win the Ballon d'Or.
The only thing I was thinking about this earlier about that's one of his reasons that he's 25 and he should be winning the Ballon d'Or by now. But we all know that when the nominations come out for the Ballon d'Or, they're pretty much all from La Liga. So I think going to the French League, I don't think it's gonna.
But it is a French thing, isn't it?
Oh well, it is. Well,
Ballon d'Or.
True, you're very.
you think maybe
you're very
thinks
right.
of going closer to home.
Yeah, you're very right. You're very right. So, I guess we'll see, won't we?
I mean, that's hard because it's an old-fashioned thing to think, but it shouldn't really be about winning the Ballon d'Or, should it? I mean, at the end of the day, what footballer would turn around to you and say, "I'd rather win the Ballon d'Or twice than 4 European Cups," for example? I mean, But
I suppose with Paris's investment, arguably, he's got the same opportunity there as he's got at Barcelona.
Perhaps.
History doesn't back that up, but...
No, and it's... I mean, you look around and the team's winning at the top. I mean, okay, it's still your Real Madrids and your Barcelonas, but, Chelsea are perhaps the Novu-rich upstart. They've won the Champions League once. Okay.
And they were terrible.
Knock it, but
they were terrible to win it as well, weren't they, at the time?
Let's not go into that. You bear a grievance, don't you?
Slightly, but they were heavily outplayed by Bayern that night.
But so it's not a guarantee. I think that's the thing. It's not a guarantee. Just splashing loads out of money, especially not. It's more of in a weird way. It's probably more of a guarantee that you win your league, especially when you're playing in the French league, which I know they didn't win last year.
No,
but it isn't traditionally a strong.
But that
league.
Being a shock shows you just how much they're expected to win it. At least if Manchester City, Chelsea don't win it here, you can understand if a Manchester United or a Liverpool, say Liverpool.
You're very kind.
But there's a certain number of clubs that if they won it at the end of the year, it wouldn't sort of surprise you.
Yeah.
Whereas in France, although Monaco have got a very talented squad, you didn't necessarily think that they were going to eclipse the expensively assembled PSG.
No, I don't think anyone saw that coming, to be honest.
And we know obviously Monaco have now lost quite a few of their squad.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if Mbappe now goes the other way rather than Coutinho now.
Well, this is what it's moving along to, isn't it? I mean, what's going to be the moves? Personally, I don't actually think it's. I don't. I think Coutinho will end up at Barcelona.
You do?
But I don't know if that'll be this summer. I still would bet that it won't be, and I think it'll be next summer. And I don't think personally that he. Barcelona could easily turn around and try and sign him, and they obviously are after him. And they could sign him, but I don't think he's a replacement for Neymar anyway. I think
he's not a direct like for like.
He's more of an Iniesta style replacement. I think and I think they might still get a bit out of Iniesta.
I think he's slightly more progressive than Iniesta in terms of where I place him going forward. But I don't think he provides you that same goal threat, even though he's very good, as Neymar.
No, he doesn't.
Who does?
He'll get. But I mean, I suppose
potentially Dybala. I mean, that would be an interesting one.
He's been linked. I think it's going to be something to look at. But I think when you're looking to sell, you've got to do it on your terms, and I think I wasn't worried about it this summer until recently because we all know what games Barca and Real play. They'll be tapping up the players from February. And there'll be little interviews in papers going, oh yeah, he'd be good to join us. He'd be good to join us.
All their players coming up and just said, oh yeah, he's got Barca DNA or something like that, and just said, oh yeah, he'd fit straight in.
We all Marca and AS, I think, are the two big papers for either club that kind of get stories out there before there's even any public knowledge, really.
So I mean, but this has all happened quite quickly. But then, as well, there was also talk that Neymar and Coutinho are really good friends. Neymar wanted Coutinho to come to Barcelona, then he would stay. So there's all this floating around in the mix. But I just think at the moment Liverpool have to stand firm and say, just do what Ferguson did with Ronaldo and say, look, we'll have you for one more year.
Well,
you can go in 2017, 18 is 2017, or we'll reassess the situation, do whatever.
It's interesting you should say that, simply because I was listening to an interview with Graham Hunter the other day. I quite like him. He's one of the sort of big Sky Sports journalists, isn't he, about Spanish football?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that he has it on good authority from close friends at Liverpool that agreement was actually made with Coutinho last summer.
Yeah, I'd heard that as well.
And that actually Coutinho is not free to leave this summer, but the club would be reneging on that agreement should they stop him going anywhere this year. But because of the improvement Liverpool have shown under Klopp, they're not necessarily sure that he wants to leave, and it would actually be more of a wrench than perhaps it was this time last year.
I just think if that's your move, and you're ahead with it and you're straight up with it, you go, yeah, we'll sell him in June, or we'll sell him on the first day of the transfer window, but not a week before the season starts. You know, when it's going to be. It's going to be tough to get in any replacements. Still chasing other targets. Apparently, we're also being invaded by aliens, so that's probably the least of our worries. Strange noise. Just to update everyone, it's still 2-0, and I think we're into injury time now with the England game. So yeah, it's looking like the Netherlands gone through. But
to go with what you were going to say there, as a fan, I agree that I'd much rather a key player was sold for mega money early, so you can reinvest. The problem that Spurs have had, I think Liverpool had when Suarez left, is that other clubs know you're coming then. They know you've got money in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so already on top of being a Premier League team, they know you've got this extra cash. Prices just rise. So a player that might have cost you 10 million prior to receiving the windfall then costs you 20.
Yeah, they know you've got money to spend. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
It's a double-edged sword, I think.
I think though Spurs did it right with Bale, didn't they? I mean, I think Spurs knew all summer that Bale was leaving, but they signed
and Everton with Lukaku.
Yeah, to be fair to say that as well.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. You can praise heaven rather than me. Rather they did that. I think that's the position, but. Yeah, the other thing, I mean, like, there's loads of names being floated around though. I saw Ozil seems to be getting linked as well.
Saw that one as well. No, I don't
seems
think
a strange one.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would that one would happen. But you have to see in it. But I think at the moment they're looking at like, oh yeah, Ozil's only got 1 year left in his deal. He's not signed a new deal. And
Sanchez,
attacking
take Sanchez back.
Would he go back there?
I don't know. That's the thing. Would he go back there? But obviously with Neymar now actually I said he was there before Neymar though, wasn't he?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, because he's been at Arsenal must be 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years now. So I don't see him going back there. But I'm quietly hopeful actually Sanchez is gonna stay now at just another goal for the Netherlands. Just rub it in.
I think it's an own goal as well.
Yeah.
Millie Bright.
Yeah, all these goals happened after we started talking about them, so we should probably never talk about them again.
Not so bright on this occasion.
There's the tabloid for you.
Yeah. Good work for the Sun. I don't want to.
No.
The fact that Sanchez has come back to Arsenal and he's actually been in training now, and the fact that he hasn't handed in a transfer request. Yeah, it's I don't think it's signed a new deal. I think he'll go next summer.
What, on a free? Is that wise? You got a player there that could bring you in 30 million. You've just spent 55 on Lacazette. Balances the books a little bit. I know money's hardly a a difficult thing for Premier League clubs right now. But
yeah, but the thing is, obviously,
if Sanchez stays for a season and gets Arsenal back into the Champions League, because that could be worth 30 million.
Yeah,
That's sometimes how you've got to look at it. I mean, I know it's bonkers in a way, but is keeping a player for a season actually worth the money that you're going to get for them? If you see what I mean.
Exactly, and you never know that.
That's a good point.
We keep him, and we do actually. I'm not going to get to go to the top here, but say we actually win the league, could happen.
It's the start of the season. Yeah. Everyone's allowed to dream.
Yeah, exactly. Or like say we get back in the Champions League, Sanchez might think, oh, hang on a second, well, actually, he'll go, and we convince him to stay. But
I guess it's a potential outcome. I mean,
it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. There's no talk. There's absolutely. I mean, it's just kind of that story has just died.
I know things are lost in translation though, but didn't he do that press conference in Chile the other week, sort of outside to a big mass crowd?
Yeah, well, he said that
was like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, he said he'd made his decision in there. I think that's what he said.
And he wanted to play Champions League football.
Yeah.
So I mean, it doesn't take a lot of reading between the lines.
It could be waiting.
Yeah, but he could also be meaning that yes, he does want to play Champions League football, but he decided to stay and see if he can get it next season. Yeah, so it could mean that. I mean, but obviously when you hear that and it's saying, oh god, yeah, he wants to leave and play with it.
I mean, for your sake, as an Arsenal fan, obviously you hope that he's willing to sort of throw that one more year at it and then make a decision. I'd be fearful just because so many other players that have uttered those words have forced their way out or looked to move clubs that summer.
I mean, I suppose the other strange thing about the whole thing is he could talk to clubs in January, couldn't he?
Yeah, well,
he wouldn't be tied for a Champions League, so he could stay 6 months and then leave in the window.
That's
true. Well, it obviously have to be a foreign club. It wouldn't obviously it wouldn't able to be a English club.
Can you not sell to English clubs in the January window?
No, you only can talk them to sign a pre-contract for a pre-contract for a foreign club.
Yeah, sorry, no, got you. Yeah.
So,
schooling me a bit there. Transfer logic.
But I mean that's been a little bit in the news. Obviously, it's been massively dwarfed by what's going on with Neymar and the potential replacements. Iheanacho has finally gone to Leicester.
Good signing.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. I think he'll get them some goals, and I think he's quite quick. He's got poacher sort of element to him. It wouldn't. I think you can always say this about a player and look stupid, and football makes fools of us all, as I always say. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him in a couple of years linked to a top 6 club. If he continues his trajectory, I think he's a really good player.
I was surprised he went to Leicester, and that's no disrespect to Leicester. Also, champions 2 years ago, but I just thought the potential there is. You don't need strikers right now, but I thought he was more at like Liverpool level, where you could throw him in. I mean, I'd love to have seen Spurs get him. I mean, obviously, you probably didn't want to play second fiddle to a main striker again. Like
at least he's going to be
before, but
maybe first choice at Leicester. Him and Vardy.
Vardy.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, he spent enough time at Manchester City watching really, really good players. He must, playing his position and getting the odd League Cup game. He must feel, although Spurs would be a different sort of challenge, he'd still end up on the bench more often than not, unless Harry Kane's injured. And then you look around at the other top 6 teams. Arsenal have sorted themselves out with Lacazette. United have got Lukaku.
Chelsea got Morata.
Yeah, I couldn't even remember who Chelsea were then for some weird reason. Liverpool have got probably enough options in that department. Also signed Solanke, so
yeah.
I think you look outside the top 6. Everton obviously doing loads of stuff. So then you're you're going into one of those mid-range kind of clubs, and I think Leicester are probably in that bracket now. Your Evertons, Leicester's, Southamptons, West Ham's. So yeah, it's as good a destination as any for him for a couple of years, as long as everything's stable there with the manager, which it seems to be. But
I saw actually quite a mad stat earlier about him that he's because obviously we're talking about minutes he's played and stuff like that, but he's actually at this moment in time, he's got the best goals to minutes ratio in Premier League history.
Wow. I suppose that's the thing, when you come on as a sub, you do get a really good goal to minute ratio if you do score. But
Solskjaer must be up there, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I've seen a table of those, and yeah, you've got some illustrious company. I obviously like to Aguero.
Yeah, it's like Aguero, Henry, and
yeah,
stuff like that. All them at the top, and Iniesta at the moment at the top. But yeah, like you say, because he's mainly used as an impact player, but does get a few goals when coming on. So,
can you guys think of any other transfer news that's been breaking over the last few days? I think it's all just been Neymar. Hasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Understandably so, I suppose, but Sky will make a big deal of this for the next 6 months, I suppose.
Oh, I imagine so, yeah. It'll be first bulletin, for a few days until something else happens.
Yeah, it'll be probably breaking news for 4 days.
Yeah, I don't think there's much happening, actually, is there? Obviously, United signed Matic the other day.
Oh, yeah.
That seemed to be sort of quietly on the cards for a while.
Good of Chelsea to let him go, or kind of a strange one, a bit of an error, really?
It's another. I think, from what I understand, it's a kind of sort of like another sort of Peter Cech. Yes, like that situation where Matic has told Abramovich that he wants to go and play for Jose again, and Abramovich just said, well, you've given us this, these many years service. Yeah, you go where you want.
I think it's to be commended, but I think it's strange when top clubs are willing to sell. Yeah, I mean, I've said the same about Kyle Walker going to City.
They're effectively a rival, aren't they? Yeah.
I've never been a fan of flogging key players or good players to a rival, because if you strengthen them with a player that you once thought was somebody that was going to be good for your team, and they go on to do the same for that team, it just seems like a schoolboy error that you could have predicted.
It's a double thing, isn't it? It's like the 6-pointer thing. You're strengthening their team and weakening your own. I think with Matic, don't get me wrong, I do rate Matic, but I think he's an odd player, and I do remember, obviously, the season before last when Chelsea really struggled. He really struggled. Like people were just running at him and he couldn't turn around. And obviously they got in Kante last season to do his running for him.
Yeah.
And he looked a lot better again. And I think he'll do well at United, because I think United have sort of constructing that quite solid base of a midfield which he'll thrive at. But I think Chelsea have perhaps slightly evolved to the point where they don't necessarily need him, but if they've got to sell somebody, perhaps he's the first name. He's the saleable asset. He's the one who's going to get them some money, and he's also somebody who isn't going to absolutely kill them going out the door. They've still got Kante, still got enough midfield options. I think.
Well, they signed
Bakayoko as well.
Yeah.
So he's sort of a like for like placement.
So
sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm pretty much done.
I was going to say, interestingly, the
Netherlands game must have finished by now.
Yeah,
3-0 by the way. So
interestingly, when Bakayoko moved to Chelsea, Monaco had already lined up and signed, I think, Tielemans from Anderlecht.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about Tielemans for years. He's been linked with every Premier League club under the sun. But people in certain circles at Monaco are already of the belief that Tielemans is considerably better than Bakayoko, and that they actually got the better deal out of the situation by allowing Bakayoko to go to Chelsea. I mean, obviously the proof is in the pudding, could be some sour grapes, etc.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Tielemans is good. He's a good player. I mean, he's actually been around for ages. He made his debut at 16, I believe, and has pretty much been a first team regular ever since for Anderlecht. So I thought it was only a matter of time before he moved to one of the sort of Europe's bigger clubs. So it'd be interesting to see where it'll go on. But yeah, clearly a talented player.
I think there's a little bit of like we don't miss you though. We ain't missing you at all. To use a terrible song.
Your way at me.
From Saddam Hussein seamlessly, because I think I sort of remember. You feel that way when a big player leaves. I thought maybe Andy Carroll will lace Fernando Torres' boots. So yeah, he could do really well. That's not, and like Mark says, been a prospect for ages. But You know, I'm never totally buying into that whole, oh, well, we got the better end of the deal thing. You've got to wait and see.
Well, they can't say that at the moment, can they? Because, like I say, Bakayoko hasn't played a game for Chelsea, and Tielemans, well, may have played a couple of friendlies, but you can't judge it on that. You need to judge it over a season, and then at the end of the season have a look at what's happened.
And transfer-wise, we've said there's not a lot else going on. Have we touched on City since the last pod? Have we mentioned about their splurging of cash on Walker and Danilo? And
seem to be buying all the fullbacks that money can buy, don't they?
Yeah, Mendy.
Yeah. I think it's just part of Guardiola sort of trying to build out 2 for every position, isn't it?
He's only got 1 left back at the moment, and apparently, so Mendy's struggling to be fit for the beginning of the season, so might not have any left backs.
I saw quite a funny tweet that had Manchester City's defence has cost more this summer than some countries' entire defence budgets.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if you're a City fan, you would say, well, actually, fair enough. It's the area we need to improve, because it is. You know, they've got most of the talent going forward. I think Guardiola likes to have that sort of fluid front 6. I think he's got all of the players he needs. Possibly bar Sanchez. It remains to be seen whether it'll chase after him or a Sanchez-like player. So I think it's the defence thing that is the next on the list. So in a sense, it's just Pep boxing it off, really.
I think so.
It was ageing, weren't they?
Although the centre halves are still questionable, but
yeah, I think
company aside.
Yeah, I think they haven't really gone in for any centre.
No, just saying that. No, they've obviously they've got obviously John Stones, who I think will probably be a better player next season.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they can keep company fit, that's the big if. Otamendi, I'm not convinced by. I still think they need a centre back.
I think I've actually. Last season, I was actually reasonably impressed with Otamendi. I still think he's got a massive rick in him.
Yeah.
But I think he did a lot better.
Huge improvement.
There was talk of them sniffing around Van Dijk, but I mean, unless they're going to come in with a late bid, nothing's really materialised on that front.
That will happen late, won't it? The Van Dijk Liverpool story keeps rumbling on in the background.
Meanwhile, Van Dijk too. As I say, he's been linked for, like you say, City. He's been
Chelsea,
linked for a few clubs.
Yeah.
I saw somebody ask a journalist the other day whether or not Spurs and Southampton were lining up some kind of swap deal where Southampton would take Kevin Wimmer. Sometimes I don't know what people are on.
If Southampton were angry at us for approaching Van Dijk illegally and buying all their players, they go absolutely spare if you sold them Wimmer and got Van Dijk.
Well,
I'd probably refuse to play you ever again. He's not that bad, Wimmer, but seriously.
No. But there's a transfer rumour actually. Spurs, the Sun said today that Spurs' first summer signing is going to be Southampton's third goalkeeper.
I heard
Gazaniga.
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh wow, there you go.
So there's something to get excited about, Spurs fans.
The press's people, although it's from the Sun, so let's face it, it's probably
But the
not.
thing is, you got 3 goalkeepers. Didn't you end up signing that Paul Lopez?
Paul Lopez, no,
I didn't.
It was a really strange story because essentially it sounds like Spurs agreed to pay Espanyol a certain amount when he came over here on loan.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to completing the deal, because his contract had wound down a little more, Daniel Levy tried to knock it down by a couple of million.
He's really not doing anything to knock that image of him, is he?
He was only worth a couple of million to begin with.
Wonderful.
We could do a whole pod on it, and I'm obviously not going to now. But
a third choice goalkeeper there, that does get the pulse racing,
doesn't it? I'm a big fan of Daniel Levy and what he's actually done with the club, and he balances the books really well. We're never going to be the sort of club that gets into trouble in that way. Probably will also hold us back, but new stadium, new training ground, all of that sort of stuff. I won't criticise him.
Oh no, he's a really good chairman actually. I think the way he runs Spurs is brilliant.
I think the only fans that get
clever
on his case are the fans that think you can just spend 50 million and not notice.
Yeah.
Just because they see the money that's in football, they assume that it's all immediately covered.
Yeah. I think the funny thing about Levy, actually, we're digressing slightly, but I think he always knows. I think he often knows. Everyone gets this wrong, but I think he's very good at selling. He knows when to sell, knows when to sell at the right time. It doesn't always work because obviously you always talk about the
Berbatov story. I'm getting angry again just thinking about it.
But he's generally quite good at that stuff.
So, Mark, you're sort of presenting this, so I don't want to sort of run over you. So do you want to talk about?
We're all very polite here.
Do you want to talk about the all-time record transfers that have gone on over the years? Do you want to mention any of these? We just thought we'd in the wake of the Neymar transfer, we just thought we'd mention some expensive.
I tell you, we'll do a mixture because I've got.
You should do it in the style of the Top of the Pops rundown. Top 10.
I should do. First of all, I'm going to mention that.
Okay, Greg, mate.
that the first record transfer was back in 1893, where. Aston Villa paid West Bromwich Albion £100 for a guy called Willie Groves.
And who did he play? What position did he play?
Where did he play?
Talk.
I don't know that, unfortunately. I didn't know, but
I like the idea that he was a swashbuckling.
He was probably in inside right. I had them back then. Didn't
He
did.
did.
Inside right.
Let's go with that.
Inside right.
Yep.
Willie Groves, good lad. Great
£100. And there was actually one story that I read today actually that made me laugh. There was 1928. There was Arsenal bought David Jack from Bolton Wanderers, and Arsenal's manager at the time, Herbert Chapman,
famous man.
didn't want to pay the fee that they were quoting. So apparently, when he met up with Bolton's advisors, bought him a few drinks, got him drunk, managed to get the price down a couple of £1,000.
Daniel Levy move.
Which did make me laugh.
So would you say this guy's...
I also like the fact that the manager's doing all of the transfers himself.
Yeah.
Obviously that doesn't happen anymore, but I kind of wish it did.
What was this guy called? The player?
The player, David Jack.
And he was moving to Arsenal.
Yeah, from Bolton.
No, you're thinking of Saucy Jack because of Stevie Colley, friend of the show.
He's indeed a friend of the show, his band name.
Right, okay. We are going to go the top 10.
Sorry.
Number 10.
That going.
Shambles.
If we were any more professional, we actually could have knocked that up.
I don't think we could be any less professional.
We didn't do it.
And then number 10, Oscar.
See, that one surprised me. I'm going to jump in immediately. How on earth has Oscar made the top 10 of all time?
Because Chelsea sold him to China for a massive amount of money, didn't
Which
they?
is crazy money.
£60 million.
Yeah, so that's quite recent, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
most
quite
of
recent.
these we'll go on to it, and most of these are very recent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 9, James Rodriguez, which I'm going to say that was Monaco to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's on loan at Bayern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who've got a really good deal like that, 2-year loan deal.
He's
James
injured.
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
No, okay, maybe not a good. That's a good deal then.
He was playing the other night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got injured in the game they had against Napoli.
And number 8, we've got Alvaro Morata, another recent one. A couple of weeks ago, £70.9 million to Chelsea from Real Madrid.
Just like just keep throwing it in.
Sorry, we're putting off your stride. This is very rude.
Well, I've forgotten what number I've got to now.
You're on number 7.
Number 7. Number 7 is a guy we've already talked about.
Yeah, he will appear twice on this list now.
He will. Well, he's going to be because obviously we're going actually to number 1 before today.
Yeah.
So yeah, Neymar, £71.5 million, which was Santos to Barcelona.
That was quite a lot then.
Well, that was only
3
probably
years.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago.
Years.
So it's probably worth about 100 million now.
Number 6, Luis Suarez, going from Liverpool to Barcelona, where he still is now, and's done pretty well.
Yeah,
There,
75 million.
Yeah, 75 million. Look at that! Look at that now, bargain.
I think so.
Yeah.
Top-
I think
And he hasn't bitten anybody since he's been there.
No, it's got where he wanted to go.
Must have just been the Scouse air.
I think
Right,
I think it was a good deal for both teams. I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, looking back, you're quite content with what you got for him.
Yeah, I think so. Because he kept biting people, we weren't going to get much more than 75 million.
If only Arsenal had offered 75 million at £1,
£1,
we could have got him. But
No idea what they were smoking.
yeah,
Still don't know.
No. And the top 5, another recent one, Romelu Lukaku, joining Manchester United for Everton for £75.3 million.
Does that suddenly look like value?
I think it did anyway, because United needed a striker at these prices. That's purely 75 point. That's nowhere near what I was saying about Shevchenko earlier, or even Sean Wright-Phillips.
Proven in the Premier League, still young. I think he'll do well.
I think that's a good price.
Just look at the figures on the page; it actually makes your head spin.
Actually, it's a top 5 joint 4th and 5th. Gonzalo Higuain, 75.3 million again, from Napoli to Juventus, which is that was last year, wasn't it?
It was last summer.
And I think he's I'm not sure how many goals he scored last season, but he did score a lot for Juventus.
It seemed a lot for his age. Remember a lot of people making a lot about the fact that they'd spent 80 odd million pounds.
29-year-old and his son. Yeah. But the thing is, he's a proven goal scorer. Wherever he didn't really get a game at Real Madrid, but I think he still had a decent scoring record there. Obviously Napoli, he scored bucket loads, and Juventus there as well.
Yeah.
Right, we're top 3, and it's no surprise to see Cristiano Ronaldo up there, £83.7 million.
Feels an age ago.
It does. Well, it must have been.
This must have really rankled him now, mustn't it?
I don't think so, because he's doing what he wants to do. He's won the Euros. He's at the best club in Europe at the moment. People speculate a lot about his ego, but I don't think that bothers him.
He might have an ego, but he's proved he's a top draw player.
Yeah.
And you look at the fee, £83.7 million at that time. Obviously a lot of money, but I think you can say since he's been there, the amount of his goal record's ridiculous. I think you can't really argue with that.
Even allowing for inflation, which I don't know, because Paul Tompkins ones are only Premier League to Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't know what that figure is, but I imagine it's probably around 120, something like that.
See, when that was spent, I just couldn't imagine, unless it was Messi, who I hope never leaves Barca, but unless it was Messi, you couldn't see how that fee could ever be broken for anybody else.
Yeah.
And yet, here we go with the next one.
That's true. Well, Gareth Bale, and obviously you guys got a good deal out of that.
Yeah.
£85 million. He's done quite well in Madrid, but he's had his injury problems. I
was glad to see him score the decisive goal in the Champions League final, though, in his first year there, and then he scored that wonder goal in the the Copa del Rey against Barcelona.
Yeah.
Fantastic to see. So it's really good to see a Brit go abroad to somewhere like Spain
and not smash things up.
Yeah. Absolutely true. And obviously until about an hour ago, the world record transfer was Paul Pogba going from Juventus to Manchester United, which that was obviously a year ago. I think he's got a long way to go still to actually justify that price tag.
Compared to the others at that level. I mean, I suppose the difference is he's not an attacking striker or someone that scores a lot of goals, so it's a different level, different yardstick to judging by.
He's still young, Perrin. Was he 22, 23 still?
Yeah, I think so.
So
I mean, that's only 4 million, because it was last summer. That's gone up by 4 million inflation, so it's now 93 million. But that could actually, in terms of this year's prices, that could look quite reasonable.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. So and then obviously, I'll say that was number one, but obviously number one now is Neymar. Neymar again, £198 million, which I think it's going to be some time before that's broken again.
I
mean, I don't want to say it won't be, because it seems almost foolish.
No, I suspect it will be, but I wouldn't say the next 5 years. You probably see this time next summer it's going to get. I'll say that it's going to get broken. I'll say that now, but.
Well, there's two ways. I mean, it's all very obvious in a way what I'm about to say, but there's two ways this can either go. It can either just carry on going, the inflation and carry on spending, and someone will bid 250 million for somebody. I don't know who that will be necessarily, or the bottom will fall out of the market, and it'll just revert back to fairly standard prices.
The thing is, without owners dropping out of clubs en masse, I can't see how the money exits, because the leagues, particularly the Premier League, is just the contractual money that they get for the TV rights and then for all the merchandising abroad and such, I can't see how that bubble bursts. I know Daniel Levy says it will, and to a degree I hope he's right.
Well, I mean, you could, if something like that ITV Digital thing happened, remember that when that happened and they lost a lot of money. I know it wasn't Premier League clubs that suffered, it was Championship clubs and others, but something like that happened again, then you could possibly be seeing that. But
it would take the demise of Sky TV probably in the UK.
I don't necessarily want that to happen. It's just but
I wouldn't be too disappointed to see it come crashing down a little bit. I think it's getting silly, and I think it is starting to. I love the coverage, things like Gary Neville on Monday Night Football. I think they're all really beneficial things that would have been great 10 years ago. But it's getting to a point now where it's incessant, and it's almost nauseating the amount of it that's thrown thrust upon you all the time. True. So I think it'd be nice to have a break. And here's us recording a podcast about football, but
but doing so in a less hyperbolic fashion.
Indeed, nice.
I search for the word there.
Good word.
Hyperbolic. That's your word for the week, listeners.
There we go. I feel that's my contribution done.
That's the end of all our contributions tonight, and we'll leave it there. You've been listening to Score to Follow podcast, and we'll see you again next time.